How's it, guys? So today I'm doing a quick herd check, but I've got some very interesting information to share with you guys, something that I just recently learned. But before we get to that, let me quickly do today's shout out. So the first shout out goes to Bailey Hugo, a 12-year-old young man from KwaZulu-Natal, and they also farm with Nguni cattle. And he was kind enough to comment on my channel. So Bailey, well done, young man. Ask your dad to take a couple of photos and send them to me. And maybe I can use them as a thumbnail on one of my videos in the future. And on that point, guys, you know what? Just a thought. If you guys want to send me some photos and videos and want me to do a piece on your cattle with a little bit of background, let me know in the comments if you guys would like me to do something like that. I get so much communication and feedback from you guys that I've become very curious as to what you guys are doing and where you're coming from. Next shout out goes to Blitzkrieg 2002, Manako, Mark Winter, Nzwa 7, Bakang Big Fish, Tsepang, Spoo Farm Life, John Hurt, Khotso, and Bongani. Guys, thanks a lot for your continued support. I really, really appreciate it. So I came across a video and believe it or not, I think it was called The Profitable Cow by Steve Campbell. Now, can you believe the title has suddenly just escaped me? So I'll see if I can put a link in the description. And if I can't place a link there, I'll at least put the name of the video in the description. Any case, guys, I came across this video and I found it to be extremely, extremely useful. You know, I'm a firm believer. I watch a lot of channels and I watch a lot of other content providers because I believe that guys who have their boots on the ground have a lot to teach me and other cattle farmers in terms of practical application. There's so much practical information that you can't learn from a book, that you can learn from guys who are physically and actively involved with their animals. So when I watched this video, I sent it to Kenneth Ball. I shared the link with him. And of course, Kenneth had to go and one-up me on that one. It didn't take 5 minutes when he sent me another link, which was just a better quality video of the one I'd sent him. In any case, guys, you know what? If a week goes by and I don't learn something new, it feels like I've wasted a week. That's where my mind is at. That's how I am at this point in time, because I feel you can't know it all. In any case, so I learned some very interesting things from this video, and you guys really must go and have a look at it. If you want to broaden your knowledge, some really good practical tips and information, it's a good video to watch. Now, it is generally accepted, and this is something I learned from them, it's generally accepted that a cow will consume 3% of its body weight daily in feed. Now, the problem with averages and generalizations is they don't take into consideration the extremes, and they're not always as accurate as one would think. Now, to use a humorous example that they shared on that same video, if you took 5 men and 5 women and you put them in the room, you technically have 10 people who would average, or who would have on average 1 boob and 1 testicle. Now, it's a humorous way of looking at it, but I think it does highlight that sometimes you've got to look a little bit further than the average or the generalization. And why am I saying this? Well, as I mentioned, on average, cattle will consume 3% of their body weight. Now, on this video, they shared that according to studies that were done, some animals would consume 2% of their body weight, and some animals would consume 4% of their body weight. Doesn't sound like it's a huge deal, but they also said that some animals are only able to digest 40% of what they consume. So 60% of what they consume is passed out undigested around the back end, while other animals could digest 70% of what they consume. Now, 70% makes a big difference. Imagine if you have a herd filled with animals that can only digest 40%. How inefficient would you be making use of your grazing, anything you feed, bales, whatever the case may be? So that was kind of like an eye-opener to me. Now, if one looks at that, you know, we always want to improve our herds. We always want to improve our production, our efficiencies, and there are many things we look at. Now, if I take the 40% digestibility, and I'm just going to turn around for the sun here because I've got the sun at a bad angle. If I look at the 40% digestibility versus 70% digestibility between two different individuals, then I think back to a video I referenced earlier on one of my previous videos by Sunup TV, where they said that they were testing heifers for growth. And they're two heifers which, for all practical purposes, were basically two peas in a pod. They consumed exactly the same amount of feed daily, but while the one was growing by 1.4 pounds a day, I think it was, the other one was actually losing weight. And that suddenly made sense. So guys, there's a lot of things we need to look at. And there are different ways of approaching things and looking at things. Just quickly, this is the Thule cow that calved down in June. That's a little calf over there, her bull calf. I'll see if I get a closer shot of him later. Guys, you know what? Body conditions, everything. Yes, I have put down small amounts of lick, not a lot, mostly minerals and vitamins, a little bit of protein in the last month, more for these heifers over here, because I know they're not really adapted types, more for them rather than for her. This cow's already cycled. She calved down at the worst possible time of the year. She's already cycled once. Look at her belly, look at her gut. I would assume she consumes 2% of her body weight, but is able to digest 70% of it. And that's what it's all about. Anyway, coming back, so we need, you know, you can't have too much information. Well, you can, I suppose. But the more I learn, the more I realize how little I know. And it's videos like these that I use to improve or fine-tune or hone my skills and hopefully make me a better cattle farmer. Now, we had some good rain last week. That was what, 10 days ago? We had some good rain 10 days ago. The grass is greening up. So while I'm walking between these heifers over here, especially these Cimbra heifers, there's a couple of things I'm starting to take note of. I'm taking note of gutful, as I've always done. I'm measuring them against what I learned on that video in this week. And I might mention some more of those points in later videos. But I'm measuring against that which they say over there, and I'm checking to see whether it corresponds. You always have to test information that you get, just to make sure that you're still on the right track. I'm also looking at how quickly they're starting to slick up now, because there's green grass. The protein content of the grazing is increasing. So they should start losing hair very quickly. And in my mind, I'm already starting with a pre-selection process. I'm starting to look at which animals I think are going to make the cut and will actually be put to the bull in March, and which animals might not stay here for that long. Now, as Murphy would have it, the herd split up this afternoon. We've got one group over here. Down there, I've got the other Thule cow that is calved, and I'm going to go to her shortly and check up on the calf. And then right over the koppie on the backside over there, we've got the other 10 or 11 animals grazing about 500 meters from here, which is not the norm. Anyway, so guys, yes, something interesting. Some cows consume 2% of their body weight, and they will digest 70% of what they consume. Some cows consume 4% of their body weight, and they can only digest 40% of what they consume. Look at this little bull, he's developing nicely. I may or may not keep him back to breed. He's got a bit of a long, fleshy sheath that I don't like. But I'm going to give him another couple of months. He's already started showing interest in the heifers, which I quite like. He's only 4 months old. So he's got some good signs to him and some points about him that I'm not fond of. But in any case, so if you want to know whether you're on the right track, go and check out that video. As I say, Steve Campbell, I think it's the Profitable Cow, if I remember correctly. And then start looking at your animals through his eyes, so to speak, and start measuring them against what he says. Anyway, just hang 5. I'm just going to pause this and walk down to the other 2 at the bottom. Okay, so I've walked all the way down to the bottom, yeah? Oh, there goes a rabbit. Nice. Bella's down here and her heifer. And then, of course, the Thule cow that just calved down, a couple of days ago on the 23rd. I just have to have a look. Bella's having a good scratch there with her horns. Not quite sure why she's doing that. Maybe she's got some parasites, sorry. I kind of scared them. Hey, calm down. I kind of scared them off a little bit. She might have some ticks around her face that she's trying to get rid of. But this Thule cow has since introduced her calf to the herd on a more regular basis, and she's a little less skittish, which is nice because it means I can get close to her. But coming back, so if you have, and I don't want to always pick on the large frames, but this is the perfect example. If you have a larger framed cow consuming 18 kilos per day, let's make it 20 kilos, and she can only digest 40% of that. It means that of the 20 kilos she's consuming, she can only use 8 kilos and the rest is passed out the back end. In other words, wasted. Whereas if you have a lighter cow like Bella over there, and she consumes 2% of her body weight, the 12 kilos that's wasted is actually enough to feed her. And she would actually consume, well, 6 times 7.2%, 7.2 kilos. She would actually efficiently use 7.2 kilos. It makes a difference. It affects the number of animals you can carry on your property. It affects their body condition. It affects your intercalving period. It basically affects all your efficiencies. Now I'm just going to slowly try and creep up to them. This cow is sometimes forgiving. Sorry about that. She sometimes allows me to get close, and other days she's just full of beans. Now look at that beautiful little calf. Look at her. I'm still trying to think of a name for her. I haven't thought of one yet. What I don't like about her, but I'm assuming that's something she'll grow out of. She seems to have what we call a baboon tail. Now, if you look at a baboon when it walks, the tail arches upwards from the base and then comes down. It's not something we want. I'm hoping it's just something that she has, being a fairly newborn calf, and that she'll grow out of it and correct it, or correct herself. Guys, look at the manure coming through there. And you know what? You can visually have a look at the dung. You can see how coarse the material is within. Hello, girl. She wants to come closer and check me out. You can see how well the animal's digested. There are other things to look for, but if you want to really, prove it to yourself, that's something you can look at. But if that's not a picture of good efficiency, then I don't know what good efficiency looks like. And on that point, I'm looking for a name for the black heifer. I'm looking for something African or indigenous. Nothing that's difficult to pronounce, please. So if you guys have some thoughts or some ideas, I don't want to poach other people's names. Drop me a name in the comments, and yeah, I'll see which one is the easiest for me to pronounce. Our tongues get twisted sometimes. Anyway, guys, I think that's it for now. There's some content I couldn't do now. The animals are spread all over. I've realized the Thule seems to stay in the low areas, which makes sense because her calf is still pretty small. And what's also interesting is the animals take turns to stay with her. Today's Bella and her calf. This morning it was a different heifer. Yesterday was another group of heifers, 3 or 4. There's always 1 or 2 that remain behind and stay with this cow and her calf. And isn't that beautiful? Isn't nature wonderful? I mean, Bella didn't grow up in this herd, and yet here she is, staying behind with that cow. It's just amazing. Guys, this one's gone on too long. I know most of you aren't going to watch this far. But thank you for your support. Thanks so much. I appreciate it. And next week, I might have a good one lined up. It all depends on how my time goes and whether I can get out to the place that I need to be. But anyway, guys, thanks a lot. Look at her. She's climbed back in there. There we are. That's what she's doing. I'm pretty sure she's got some parasites. Sorry. Maybe we've got some very fine ticks like pepper ticks. And you'll often see these animals licking each other's faces, grooming each other. And I think part of that's for ticks. And then the other way is they rub it off on these banks. Anyway, guys, thanks a lot. We'll chat again. Have a good one. Cheers.